Shout out Jeffrey Epps.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't know if it's a serious question or not, but I will say that Donald Trump is so good. Donald Trump is so good at controlling what the media is focused on. I would argue Donald Trump is very good at controlling what the average American is kind of willing to bite into, and then he kind of shapes the media narrative around what he already knows are going to be good media bites, and just kind of keeps feeding everybody. I honestly think, and I say this because I think it's scarier than what most people think, I actually think Donald Trump is quite smart. And it's so easy to look at a guy like that and think that he's not smart, but because he continues to keep us focused on what he wants us to focus on, either he's smart or somebody in his circle of influence is quite smart, and he had to find the smart person to keep the trust in. So there's something there that's really interesting to me, because if you even look at what we're doing in the Caribbean right now, with our military buildup in the Caribbean, we're all looking at this, and what are we being told? Narco-terrorists in Venezuela. If you look at that question logically, it makes zero sense. And yet everybody is thinking that that's what we're doing in the Caribbean, right? Less than 15% of cocaine comes through Venezuela. 100% of cocaine not 100%, something like 85% of cocaine flows into the United States. The remainder goes to Europe, primarily two predominant markets. And the vast majority, 90-ish% of the cocaine that comes to the United States goes through Mexico. All of the fentanyl goes through Mexico. So why are we focusing on Venezuela at all? Why do we even have a term narco-terrorist?
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Makes you think. That's right.
That's what we do on The Good Guys.
Say more of it. We try not to.
It makes me think. It absolutely makes me think. I don't know what I'm thinking about. It makes me think.
Don't hurt yourself.
I just short circuit.
Okay, so if you have nothing to hide, why not release the files?
So I think that the real win here for Donald Trump is to have this constant controversy between Donald Trump publicly saying, release the files, let us vote on releasing files, push the Americans have the right to know. But then knowing full well that he can say that out loud and it's not going to happen for some other reason. There could be, let's just theorize that Jeffrey Epstein was in fact what's known as a protected CI, a confidential informant or a clandestine source.
And would that be through the CIA?
No, it would be through a law enforcement agency, because CIA is not a law enforcement agency. This is, it's a silly piece of bureaucracy, but it's an important piece of bureaucracy. All of the tasks that government is given are split between different authorities. Let's just say there's 10. There's more than 10, but let's just assume that there's 10. Those 10 authorities are essentially 10 different carve-outs from American law that allows the agencies to break some element of American law in pursuit of their larger mission. So CIA's carve-out has to do with espionage. We're allowed to commit espionage, which is illegal in every country, including our own, but we're allowed to commit acts of espionage outside of United States borders in support of national security. So that's our carve-out. That's our article. That's our authority. FBI also has an authority. Their authority is that they are allowed to collect intelligence on U.S. citizens without the knowledge or permission of the U.S. citizen. That's their carve-out. So someone like Jeffrey Epstein, who's a U.S. citizen, would fall under FBI's jurisdiction in order for them to collect the information they need to build a case against him. But because he was in bed with with so many corrupt people, particularly corrupt politicians, he's also the kind of person that would make a very attractive CI source, a clandestine informant who would be able to help FBI build a case not on Jeffrey Epstein, but on 15, 20, 30 other corrupt politicians that are all funneling their money, their criminal activity, their nefarious activity through Jeffrey Epstein. And in order to do something like that with a U.S. citizen, you essentially have to grant them amnesty for their crimes that are committed in the process of facilitating criminal behavior for other people.
I want amnesty, and I don't do anything.
Everybody wants amnesty.
I'm a good guy. I pay my taxes on time. I overpay. A little amnesty would be nice.
Amnesty sounds great. So your thought is that potentially it's all just great noise that they're loving using, that they keep alive, even though they know that they can't ever release anything on him, so that they can keep your attention there while doing things there.
Correct.
And honestly, I personally think that sounds incredibly logical.
If you haven't discovered your natural-born spy skills, then somebody else may be using theirs against you. CIA teaches us there are only three types of people: those who manipulate, those who motivate, and those who are being controlled by one of the other two. I built a 3-minute CIA-style quiz designed to help you unlock your secret psychological advantage and identify your biggest blind spot. This quiz will help you weaponize your natural gift and use it to get ahead of 99% of people in power, money, and purpose. Click on the first link in the description below or scan the QR code on your screen right now to take the test. I want you to discover your hidden spy skill and use it before someone else uses theirs against you.
Because otherwise, it wouldn't continue to be this rat race. We're going to release it, no you're not. We're going to release it, no you're not. You just would stop drawing attention to the fact that people are asking you to release it, and you would stop commenting on it. The only way that the media continues to feed off it is if you keep talking about it. Correct. It's funny that we spoke about cancel culture for a second, Josh. It's the same thing. If you continue to bring up something yourself, then you're giving people the ability to continue to talk about it. But if you just put a stop to it, and you stop talking about it, and you stop answering any questions on it, eventually, like everything else, it probably goes away. So it's very interesting, and I think that, again, I don't know anything more than anybody else knows, but the idea that they don't have files that they can release legally and are just continuing to talk about it to distract from something else would be sort of politician 101. I think that every administration has that thing where they put your attention on something while they focus on things that actually matter as opposed to chatter.
But they can release it. They don't want to. They're protecting.
We actually don't know. He's
saying that he doesn't know. Maybe they can't release it.
Correct.
Maybe he is this CIA informant.
That's a great question, right? So the way that our government was built, we were built with three branches, right? The legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. That's where your amnesty comes from, right there. Your amnesty comes from the judicial branch.
RBG. You know what I'm saying? Clarence Thomas.
R.I.P.
Coney Barrett.
So you've got these.
Cabinot.
I just want to let you keep going. This is pretty. It's never sounded cooler than right now. The entire judicial branch.
Jackson. Sotomayor. Sorry. Okay,
so you've got these three branches of government that all combine together to make the government, but they know that they only contain certain authorities in each branch. So everything that would be related to Jeffrey Epstein as a criminal, in his criminal activity and in his criminal protection, would all fall under the judicial branch, which is where FBI lives.
Right.
But the executive branch is the president of the United States. That's a whole different branch. So essentially, the president can say anything he wants to say, or she, if we have a female president at some point, they can say anything they want to say from their branch, and it has no impact on another branch. That's how our checks and balances were supposed to be carried out.
Right.
So the executive branch can know that the judicial branch can't release the files, but they can still publicly say the judicial branch should release the files, even though they know they can't, because they have no power or authority over the other. It's also why the legislative branch, Congress and the Senate and the House, why they have no power over what Donald Trump does with his executive orders, or what he does, say, when he uses covert action from CIA against Venezuela. Like, our Congress people have no say in that because it's a completely different branch of government, right? So
like when Trump came out initially and said that he was going to release the files on JFK, because that's another thing that people have been wanting to hear, he's able to say, I want them to release those files, because maybe he means that, but he has zero authority in doing so.
And that's
same thing.
That's what's so interesting about the JFK specific situation, because if JFK was fully an intelligence matter, fully a CIA matter, CIA falls under the executive branch. 100% of what the files they had would be released by the president's direction. But by virtue of the fact that part of the JFK files haven't been released, it means that either part of them haven't been released by the president, or part of them actually exist in a different branch of government, like the judicial branch. That's what's so tricky about JFK. My recollection is that Donald Trump said release JFK files and then changed his mind after partial release of the files. Meaning he saw something and he was like, as the executive, we're not going to release that, but we'll release everything else.
This is the real me.
This is an AI replacement. The background is real.
The AI character is not.
Well, we can flip it.
Real person, AI.
But isn't that always the case of no matter who the president is, whether it's the most, like an Obama type who comes in and is like the senator and young and seems like quite pure in their direction, or you have someone like Trump who had sat in the seat before and then was coming back, right? Isn't it that on day one, at 3 p.m. on January 20th, you get sat down in a room and go, I know what you ran on. Here's what's really going on. And they go, oh, we can't tell people this.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it. There is a specific point at which candidates are given a security brief to the level of compartmentation that they will have as president, because the president still has to fall within a need to know. And there are certain areas that the president doesn't need to know until the president asks.
Because they don't want to ever have the president be implicated in something that wasn't necessary for them. It's easier if they just don't know.
Exactly. And it's partly that, and it's also a prioritization for the president. But there's certain things the president doesn't need to know because it's just not important enough, right? What we're trying to do against some low-level drug dealer who's dealing methamphetamines in Montana doesn't really rise to the occasion of the president's daily brief, right? So there's all these different elements that are there. But you're exactly right. You'll have 10 people running on the red side and 10 people running on the blue side. None of them actually know what's happening. And then that'll get whittled down to a primary and a secondary and a tertiary, and then all of a sudden the primaries happen, and now you have one candidate that's blue and one candidate that's red, and maybe 2 or 3 that are in between. The only people who will get the security briefing are the people who have a realistic chance of making president. So only the two, the red and blue, the conservative and the liberal rep, will get that security briefing. And it's not until right before they actually know that they're the candidate.
So that's like if elections are in the first week of November, when are those candidates getting like brought in on official security briefings?
6 weeks, maybe 6 weeks before they actually get elected into office.
Cool.
So you're exactly right.
So much baloney.
They can
so
promise
much baloney.
They can promise anything they want, and then they find out they can't.
They can promise free buses. They can promise free grocery stores.
Talk to me about Venezuela. So China is the thing that I'm very sad anytime people get distracted, because while I would love to hold hands and march into the future with China as an ally, but we not decouple, but we get realistic about not letting anyone control certain aspects of our way of life. Certainly not somebody who has proven that they will very rapidly become an adversary. What is Venezuela all about? How does China figure into this, and what should we do?
I'll answer your question directly first, and then I'll kind of backfill it with why I think the way I think. I believe Venezuela is a red herring. I believe that all of the Venezuela talk and the Venezuela focus is not actually the focus of the president, not actually the focus of the Department of War, as it's now called. I believe that is all a red herring that's being given to us as a pill that we'll accept, because we all kind of agree Venezuela's, we don't know anything about it. That's what we all really believe. We don't know anything about Venezuela except Maduro bad. And we all hate drugs. So if you can
speak for yourself, Andrew Bustamante.
So if you can affiliate Venezuela with drugs, then boom, yeah, of course we're against it. Rah rah rah. Let's blow up boats and let's show American power off the coast of our own country. I mean, who doesn't want to cheer for that? I lived in Tampa. It gives you a giant erection every time an F-22 takes off, and you're like, fuck yeah, that's America, right? Like, when you're standing in the field and there's Abram tanks that are driving by, the whole world rumbles, and you're like, fuck yeah, that's America. Trust me, I get it. And now we get to do that off the coast of Florida. And of course, Texas, and of course, Mississippi, Louisiana, we're all like, ooh, fuck yeah, we're awesome. Because we get to do it here. We've been projecting that power worldwide. We don't get to rah, rah, rah when it's, off the coast of Israel. But here it's different. So all of that to say, I believe Venezuela is a big red herring. Now, why do I believe that that's a big red herring? When you look at the actual evidence, the objective realities of the claims that are being made, we're fighting a drug war against narco-terrorism, or narco-terrorists, right? The term narco-terrorist has an actual definition, right? And that definition for a terrorist has to be the use of violence to gain a political change. That is what's required of a terrorist. They must use violent, lethal attacks in an effort to force political change. Narco-terrorists would just be drug-funded or drug-related terrorists. That's the definition that's out there for everybody to look up. Well, the cartels aren't doing that. The cartels aren't using violence, particularly not violence against the United States, to change politics. That's where the argument comes from recently, that they're trying to say, oh no, Maduro weaponized cocaine. He weaponized cocaine specifically to attack Americans. Even if that was the case, what's the political change that he's trying to drive? Because that's the important part about a terrorist. They have to be driving a political agenda. Secondly, only 15% of all the cocaine at most, only 15% of the cocaine that enters the United States comes through Venezuela. 100% of it almost is created in Colombia. But then a small fraction is sent through Venezuela and then shipped up to Puerto Rico, where it goes into the American postal system, and then it can be shipped all over the United States. A small percentage. Upwards of 90% of all cocaine.
Pause that on it. Cocaine, crack cocaine, methamphetamine. Yeah, 6.5 dozen the other. 3 plus 3 for another one. It's all the same shit. Unless you come to Australia and then it's no-dos with snow cones or something. Bucket crack.
Goes through Mexico. So why are we focused on Venezuela? If we're trying to fight cocaine, why wouldn't we focus on Mexico? Why are we focused on Venezuela? Doesn't make any sense in terms of volume. Then you start to think about other issues. One of Venezuela's top 2 military weapons partners are Russia and China. Russia historically, China more currently.
Last question of this interview, Mr. Desos. Do you fully understand the risks of being a traitor? The age we live in is chaotic.
Can I have another bottle, Miss Clara? I know the talk. The Empire's crumbling, the galaxy is going dark, blah blah. Just as Dr. Selden predicted with his psychohistory. But I see opportunities. Opportunities for profit. It's a wild market. Everything's got a price. Opportunities for treasure. Relics scattered across the stars, waiting.
Venezuela also maintains one of the largest amphibious assault forces in all of Latin America. And guess who provided all of their amphibious assault weapons? China. So if you really want to know what an amphibious assault would look like of China against Taiwan, you want to get a look under the hood of what the amphibious assault looks like in Venezuela. What do their capabilities look like? What do the weapons look like? How would they use them? China's number 1 trading partner is actually Pakistan. So China's number 1 weapons importer is Pakistan. Pakistan buys the most Chinese weapons. But almost all of the weapons that Pakistan buys from China are focused on ground warfare and airborne warfare, radar detection, ballistic missiles, etc., that they're using against India. It doesn't give us any, and Pakistan's a U.S. ally. So we know everything we need to know about Chinese weapons because our Pakistani partners are probably giving us the information. But we know very little about China's amphibious assault capability. But Venezuela would be our best insight into that. Add into that mix the fact that the Panama Canal was a major focus of Trump during the presidential administration, because if you haven't discovered your natural-born spy skills, then somebody else may be using theirs against you. CIA teaches us there are only 3 types of people: those who manipulate, those who motivate, and those who are being controlled by one of the other 2. I built a 3-minute CIA-style quiz designed to help you unlock your secret psychological advantage and identify your biggest blind spot. This quiz will help you weaponize your natural gift and use it to get ahead of 99% of people in power, money, and purpose. Click on the first link in the description below or scan the QR code on your screen right now to take the test. I want you to discover your hidden spy skill and use it before someone else uses theirs against you. He claimed that China controlled the Panama Canal. That's not fully correct. The more correct way of saying it would be that China controlled the entrance and exit ports of the Panama Canal. They were predominantly owned by a Hong Kong subsidiary. in March of this year, Trump demanded that Hong Kong subsidiary sell a majority stake to U.S. investment company BlackRock, I believe it was. So then in August of this year, that transfer actually happened. So it was only in August 25th of this year, that the Panama Canal became majoritively owned by U.S. investment firms instead of majoritively owned by Chinese investment firms. And then within 2 weeks after that date, the first drug boat was blown up off the coast of Venezuela.
Really?
So I'm not saying we have smoking guns, but I'm saying we have multiple verified independent sources of information that point to the fact that our conflict in Venezuela actually isn't about Venezuela.
So the boats that we're blowing up, are they us really going, oh, these are narco boats, or are these boats that China is working with them to do a thing and we want to keep sending a message to China?
No, I believe that they're actually carrying drugs. And if you look at some of the, not only the drug boats between Mexico or between Venezuela and the United States, but even the drug boats that are going to Europe, like they're busted old boats. They're handmade, they're leaky, they're not significant enough that you would imagine they'd be worth a six-figure missile to blow them up, right? But that's what we're doing. Maybe it's a $50,000 missile, not a $100,000 missile that we're using to blow up the boat. Either way, it's a $50 boat. So I do believe that there really are drugs. I do believe those drugs really are moving, and I do believe that we really are impacting the flow of drugs. But we're impacting a part, like a fraction of the 15% maximum of cocaine flow that's actually coming into the United States. If we
I totally buy that that's all a red herring, but now I want to understand. So if this is really, I think we're already in a Cold War with China. That seems patently obvious to me. So in the rubric of this is a Cold War with China, what are we doing blowing up the boats? Is it just a reminder we have these missiles? I mean,
it's to consolidate our military in the Caribbean.
To justify sending them there.
Yeah, to justify sending our military to the Caribbean, because China not only predominantly owned the entrance and exit port for the Panama Canal, they predominantly own multiple.
But that's in Panama, not Venezuela. So do you?
It's that part of the ocean. Right?
But do you think there's a clandestine battle that's happening that we just aren't aware of?
So I think the answer to that is, the simplest answer is yes. The book that I wrote about my own experience with CIA talks about the start of what we call a shadow conflict with China, right? An intelligence battle, an intelligence war with China. And the big difference between the Cold War that you and I lived through the tail end of with Russia and
I lived through the whole thing. I'm older than you, my friend. Not the whole thing, I suppose, since it started at World War II, but
the big difference between the Cold War with Russia and, I don't know, we should come up with a name for it. Let's just call it the Rice War. I'll be racist.
Damn!
The Rice War that we're dealing with now.
You heard it here first, everybody.
The Rice War that we're dealing with now is that during the Cold War, the United States had no economic reliance on Russia. They were two completely separate economies.
Yep.
But now we have a major economic reliance on our largest geopolitical adversary. So it's not so easy to have a standard Cold War where we just turn a cold shoulder and we put up an iron curtain. Now we have to meet over rice. We have to talk. We have to pretend like we're friends, even though we wonder who's poisoning the rice, right? On both sides. I kind of like this analogy right now.
Nice.
Right? Especially since I think we grow the rice and they actually buy our rice. So there's all sorts of interesting fucked up things about our relationship with China. But that's what we're dealing with. So we can't just out China. If we out China, we go back into a tariff war. We stop getting plastics. They stop getting chips. It all gets really fucking messy. So we have to find this way to like be in bed together but still kick each other under the sheets. It reminds me of the sport water polo. I don't know if you follow water polo.
I know enough about it to know exactly where you're headed.
Yes. I knew nothing about water polo until I went to college, and then I became friends with a water polo player, and I only then discovered it's a dirty fucking sport. Under the water, they do horrible things to each other, and then they just pass the ball up top. So when we watch, we get to see all this cool action above the water, but all the nasty shit's happening under the water. That's what this war is like with China right now. So China owns huge chunks of the Caribbean. China has massive leases on infrastructure and military bases and ports all across the Caribbean. They have rare earth mineral rights across the Caribbean. Their major shipping routes go through the Caribbean. We move all of our shit to the Caribbean just to tell the Chinese, don't forget, this is our house. And that's what we're doing here right now. we've consolidated our forces. Look how fast it happened when we were fighting Venezuela. How fast do you think it's going to happen if you mess with us? How fast can we take your Caribbean investments? How fast can we cut off your flow, not just to the American market, but also to all of your own rare earth minerals and all of your supply chains in the Caribbean? And oh, by the way, if you think that you're going to continue to grow influence in Latin America and South America, which it has, China's increased its partnerships all across Latin America.
Massively. Look
By
up
the way,
gold corridor.
Yeah, by the way, don't forget that we're their neighbor. It's a huge message. It's a huge message that was arguably effective enough to walk China off the tariff cliff that Trump just closed with them recently.
They blah, 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 and they control everything. The most interesting thing to me about it isn't that people have come up with this. One of the most interesting things to me about this particular topic with regards to the Jews and the myth that they control this and they control that, banking, they control finance, they control government, they control politics, they control media, they blah, 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 and they control everything. The most interesting thing to me about it isn't that people have come up with this. Because we know already that the West has been saying this kind of thing. And we know obviously where this kind of thing leads, where it has led in the West time and time and time again. Hitler wasn't a one-off. You should understand that. The Nazis weren't a one-off. This wasn't a dear Lord, how could this ever have happened? It happened repeatedly. This isn't, this is part of the game that they play about themselves, that the lie that they tell about themselves, that Hitler was some kind of an anomaly. Hitler was not an anomaly in any way, shape, or form. In Western history, in European history. No, he's absolutely a son of Europe, and not a bastard. He's an absolute, he's the heir apparent of Europe. As you can see now, they haven't stopped. They never gave up with this. You're supporting Ukraine now with their Nazis, with their Nazi flags, with their Nazi calls, their Heil Hitler. And you've got it in America, in the country that supposedly defeated the Nazis. You're full of neo-Nazis. You got your president doing the Nazi salute. So this is not an anomaly, and you're not fooling anybody. We know exactly this is a very consistent thing with you. So it's not strange to me that they came up with this. But the most interesting thing to me about it is how passionately people believe it, how passionately they defend it. How deeply invested they are in believing it and maintaining it. And when you tell them facts and data that demolish this myth, it's like you took away their security blanket. They're like a child, you took away their favorite toy. That they, it's like you not letting them suck their thumb anymore. They get so upset, they're just like, they go immediately to violence, they go immediately to viciousness, they go immediately to insult and slander, and like it's a personal attack on them to tell them that the Jews don't control the world. You are very invested in the idea that the Jews are the most powerful nation on earth. It's very strange, and you should understand that if this is a fact-based opinion that you have, and you're on solid ground, you will never react that way. You will never react so emotionally, so histrionically, to being introduced to facts and data that debunk what you're saying. Your reaction is never going to be like this. Your outrage doesn't refute the facts and the data and the reality. Your outrage convicts you in the falsehood of your belief. It's a very emotional, personal response from people who, for whatever, this is how this isn't rational, it's not reasonable, it's not logical. It's very, very deeply personal for people to believe that the Jews are the ones. And I think that you have to look at different types of people who believe this, who choose to believe this, in spite of actual logic, sense, rationality, reason, and factual reality. People who choose to believe this, to try to understand what is, frankly, psychologically, intellectually, emotionally wrong with you, that is causing you to be, that is causing this belief to be some kind of medication for you. This is some kind of a medication that you're taking that is enabling you to face the world by believing this. That's why you react so vehemently, so violently when this false belief gets challenged. It's like I have insulted your mother when I say that the Jews don't run the world. Question yourself. Why do you feel that way? Why you take it so personally? I mean, are you a Jew? Are you Jewish? A Jew who has been raised to believe that they control the world, and then I want to tell you that you don't. You take it very personally. The truth is, you're not invested in believing that the Jews control everything. You're invested in believing that the Jews are the only evil people, and that you are not evil, despite all of the evidence that we have, despite all of the historical evidence that we have, the endless litany of atrocities that you and your people have committed in the West, the Europeans have committed. You don't want to take responsibility for any of that. You want us to believe just like the perfect example is with this Epstein business. You make it sound like these senators and these congressmen and these business people and these investors and these professionals and these elites. You want to make it sound like they're victims. You want to make it sound like they're victims for committing sexual assault on children on an island. They were tricked into it. Could you be tricked into it?
This is like narrative engineering.
Could you be coerced? Could you be tricked into it? And the crime is that it was on video.
Yeah.
That's the crime. You know, it's the epitome of why you do this, because you're the one who went to the island. You're the one who's the pedophile. You're the one who assaulted a child. You want the Jew to be to blame for what you just did. This is in microcosm. Everything that this is the epitome of the history of the Western relationship with the Jews. I posted a picture of the signatures on the Constitution of the United States. And I said, this is the original Epstein list. Because the 13 colonies were the original Epstein Island. That was the original Epstein Island. But maybe that doesn't count for you because the victims on that Epstein Island were all African slaves. You know, Thomas Jefferson, everyone knows Thomas Jefferson had a relationship that they romanticized with his slave. Did you know she was 14? He was in his 40s. She was 14, 13 or 14 years old, maybe younger. This is your Thomas Jefferson. This is your founding father. And like father, like son. You try to act like this is some, again, like you same way you try to act like Hitler was an anomaly, you try to act like every time some evil comes, whether it's an anomaly or they got tricked into it, well, come on, who are you trying to fool? I mean, in fact, it even goes all the way back to the origin of calling the Jews Christ killers.
Yes.
The Romans did that. That was the Romans. The Jews weren't in charge. But you put that off on the Jews too. Now again, see, and then the reaction is, Shahid, why are you defending the Jews? Who said I'm defending the Jews? I didn't say that they don't do evil. I'm just saying they're not the only ones who do evil, and they're not the top ones. They don't have the most power, but you're trying to deflect from the ones who have the most power, who have the worst criminal record in history. You know, just because I say that the Jews are an accomplice and not the crime boss, that doesn't mean I'm defending the Jews. The Jews were under us.
Yeah.
The entirety of our history. The entirety. They were under us in Medina, and they were under us ever since.
Yes.
They never ran us.
No.
They never put us in a problem that we couldn't handle. They knew their place and we handled it. So we know, see, you can't fool us.
Yeah.
This is what I'm saying. You can't fool us. We know the history. We know what they're capable of and what they're not capable of. And we know that if you're righteous, they can't do anything to you. They can't get you into this or that compromising position. You did that yourself. It's not their fault that you're a pervert. It's not their fault that you dehumanize other human beings. It's not their fault that you can't control your lusts. It's not their fault, you know, that you are what you are. They didn't make you pirates. They didn't make you rapists. They didn't make you pillagers and plunderers and colonizers. They didn't make you do that. You were that, and they participated in the profit making.
Yeah.
Because why wouldn't they? They don't have a higher level of morality than you do. Kufar's kufar. The Western so-called civilization. You're evil. This is in your character. Evil is in your character because of your culture. Don't misunderstand. And I've clarified this many times. This isn't racial. That's not even a thing. It's not genetics. Yeah. This is your cultural background. This is what you inherited over time, over hundreds, if not thousands of years. This is how you became. We could overlook it. We could pardon it if it was a slip.
Right.
But it's not a slip.
Yeah, it's
This is absolutely a feature. It's not a bug. I mean, don't you? This is the question. Don't you want to know how the system works? Don't you want to actually know how the system works? And the problem is that you have made an assumption about how the system works, and that assumption satisfies you for reasons other than your interest in the truth. It satisfies you for some kind of psychological reasons, for some kind of emotional reasons, for some kind of personal reasons. And that's why you have an emotional reaction when it is disproven. Because if you have a theory, say, about who's in charge, and your only motive, your only driver, is that you genuinely want to know what the truth is, then when someone comes to you with information that causes you to change your hypothesis, you welcome that, because all you want to do is be right. All you want to do is be truthful. You want to be accurate. You know, you won't react like you've been personally attacked.
Not at all.
Except that, like I said, this is your security blanket.
By not wanting to know the truth, it plays perfectly into the OCGF system.
Yeah, precisely. I mean, this has been one of the most useful things for the OCGFC, and this is one of the reasons why they developed where they developed, which is in America. This is where they developed. No, excuse me. Obviously, there's a whole history of private sector power. You can and the blending of private sector power with government, like the East India Company, the British East India Company, the Dutch, and so on. But the unique elements of the current modern version of OCGFC developed in America, and the American system was perfect for them because of the illusion of democracy already has everyone looking the wrong direction for where power is. It already has, you already live in a system that is literally sustained by deception and lying to the public. It's literally sustained by that. This isn't hyperbole. I'm not just trying to talk rhetoric here. I mean, functionally, logistically, the power structure in America operates by sustained lies and deception and misdirection. So this provided a perfect situation for the rise of the OCGFC, because everyone is always looking over there for what power is and where power is and who power is. So that allows the OCGFC to operate in the shadows. Although it's not in the shadows, it's just not where you're looking. There's plenty of light, but you're just not looking there because they've got you looking over here. And so yeah, this is one of the reasons why people who maybe I'll sort of offer an olive branch to the people who are clinging to the idea of the Jews. The system is opaque. The system is complex. The system is hard to understand, it's complicated, it's confusing. And people want to be able to operate in the world with some kind of an understanding. People don't want to operate in the world like they're just blind and they have no idea what's going on. So you come up with ways to make it make sense to you. But you're not capable of basing that hypothesis on researched reality. So you follow your intuition, say, which ends up just being following your own biases. So when you disprove that theory, it shatters their whole what they have built that enables them to even move around and function in the world in a way that makes the world make sense. So on one level, that's why you have this very emotional personal reaction. But either way, I mean, grow up. This is how it is. If you can't actually operate in the world on the basis of truth, on the basis of reality, on the basis of facts, then withdraw from public discourse. You know, and I've said it a million times. You don't have to engage in politics. You don't have to have an opinion. You don't have to be involved. This is not required of you. If it's beyond your God-given capacities, there's no need for you to be involved in it. There's no blame on you for not being involved in it. Just live your life.
If the Jews are not in control, why the world can't stop Gaza's suffering?
You see, you're assuming that everyone is moral except for the Jews, and that therefore everyone is being morally oppressed by the all-powerful Jews that are preventing everyone else from acting morally. Who told you they want to? Who told you that all of these other actors are interested in acting morally? They're not. America is not interested in acting morally. Europe is not interested in acting morally. This isn't something that has anything to do with the Jews. It has to do with, like I said, it's your own culture. It's your own belief system. It's your own history that shows what your culture and your belief system is, which is that morality has never mattered to you. Suffering has never been a bar on you proceeding with any agenda, any action.
It doesn't matter to you.
Yeah. Why didn't they stop slavery 400 years earlier? You know, why did they do everything that they've done? Why didn't they stop the genocide of the Native Americans? Because they got something out of it, and they're getting something out of this.
It's not because there was
You have
moral
to,
imperative.
yeah, you have to understand this. Morality is not a driver in policy. Power acquisition, power consolidation is. Profit maximization is. This is what drives policy. Because this is the system that you made, and this is the other thing I want to clarify. The system didn't make you like this. You made the system like this because you're like this. This is why I said you can be actually capitalist in our last one. You can be capitalist and not materialistic, but you can't do that in the West because you're already materialistic. So your approach to business is according to the way you already are. The system that you built was built according to your own parameters of your own character.
What will America become if it will stop being a global power?
A regional power.
Yeah.
It already is functionally a regional power. It just hasn't quite completely accepted that fact yet.
Yeah.
Or there are factions inside of America who haven't completely accepted the fact that they are at this point a regional power. And I've talked about this before anyway, but their status as a global hegemon was never achieved by merit. It was never achieved through competition. This is against their historical narrative. But America didn't become a global hegemon by defeating everyone else. Everyone else who was a hegemon fell apart. And America was just the last man standing, not because they defeated everyone else, but everyone else got tired. Everyone else collapsed from their own weight, and that's the same thing that's happening to America. But by all rights, America is supposed to just be a regional power. And that's what they will recede into being. What they believe in is power, what they believe in is exploitation, what they believe in is material acquisition, period, full stop. Everything else are rationales that they use to achieve that. Everything else, every other so-called belief that they pretend to have is just for that purpose. It's just some kind of a rationale for that purpose. To appeal to give them some kind of a justification that has some relationship to depth of principle or depth of ideals. Whether we're talking about positive ideals or negative ideals. You know, whether you're talking about neo-Nazis or you're talking about woke or what have you. They don't believe any of that. None of them believe any of that. Their belief in the marrow of their bones is power consolidation and material acquisition of resources. They're not deeper than that. That's as deep as they go. Everything else is just decorating that very core primitive reality. Here's an example. There's a recent thing going on that you probably are aware of if you speak English and if you consume any media at all. There's this American Eagle ad campaign for their jeans with this Sydney Sweeney, right? And there's this huge controversy because the ad is is seen as a dog whistle for eugenics and white supremacy.
Right.
Okay? The company, American Eagle, does not care about any of that. But they know that you people will argue about it. They know that you will start talking about it. They know that there's people out there who use eugenics, who use white supremacy as their rationale
Well, that's a
for the way that they decide to act in the world,
Yeah.
for the inhuman way that they decide to act in the world. And then there's the ones who are on the other side who use this particular rationale for the way that they operate in the world. When both of them are operating in the world the same way, and the one who is getting them to argue is operating in the world the same way by using beliefs and ideals and morals and principles and what have you, just as a way to make money. This is all that that's about. Their stock went up like $400 million off of the back of those ads.
free
Mission accomplished.
Yeah.
That's all they care about. If you think that American Eagle is trying to push eugenics and white supremacy, you're crazy. They're trying to push their stock price up. That's all they're trying to do. Financialization. They're trying to make money. And they're making fools of you. And the same thing is true of whenever you see any Westerner on the right or the left arguing about anything. They're just trying to make fools of you by making you think that they believe anything that they're saying. They don't believe any of this. They believe in power acquisition, consolidation, and acquisition of material resources. Full stop. That's it. That's as far as they go. That's as deep as they go. And they will use any and all rhetoric, any and all ideologies in service to that, and to decorate that and to make it look prettier than it is. So I'm saying they don't care. This is how much contempt they have for belief in anything. This is how nihilistic they are. That white supremacy is a horrifically inhuman, dangerous, violent ideology. But that's fine. We can trigger that because there's money in there. There's money to be made.
Yeah.
So that's fine.
This will be free advertising by way of
Yeah.
arguments.
Because for sure, if we put that out there, there's going to be a whole cohort of people who will recognize the eugenics aspect in the wordplay about what's her name has good genes or whatnot.
Right.
So obviously, we'll be able to start a controversy. We'll be able to I mean, who even remembered that that's a company that exists? Now everybody knows it.
Yeah.
And they got hundreds of millions of dollars in free advertising, in free name dropping, all across the media, all across social media, free marketing, and their stock went up. Mission accomplished. This is how cynical they are about morals and so on. You have to get up to speed. We really have, we as a people, and I'm not even just talking about the Muslims. The Muslims, we all have to get up to speed, brothers and sisters. We have to get up to speed because things are moving very fast. And if we're moving into the future, if we're moving into the second half of the 21st century, and we're still kicking around ideas like, oh, the Jews control this, the Jews control that, the Illuminati, the Masons, and what have you, and you still haven't understood the basics of power dynamics, you're going to get left behind. We're going to get left behind because things are moving very fast. And what we should be talking about is what's coming next. But we spend so much time just trying to get ourselves up to speed about what is now that we can't even start talking about what's coming next because we have a lot of challenges upcoming. The how this transition is going to play out and what we need to do on our side, what our leaders need to do, what our private sector leaders and our governmental leaders and our rulers and our populations, what we need to do to try to manage this transition in a way that is beneficial for us. Because the OCGFC are predators. I've said it 1,000 times. The OCGFC are predators. They're never going to stop being predators. They're never going to stop being the way they are because, again, the system didn't make them. They are this way, and that's why the system is the way it is, because they are this way. That's why they are. That's what their character is. That's what their culture is. Their instinct and their driver is always going to be to dominate and exploit and dehumanize and take and pillage. That's always their go-to reflex, their go-to instinct. And we're moving in this transition where all of those powers, all of the powers of the A National OCGFC, their centers of power, the center of gravity of the global economy is moving from the West into our part of the world. It's moving into the global South. It's moving into the East. It's moving into the Middle East, so-called. It's moving into the Gulf. It's going to be moving into Bilad Sham. We have to navigate that. We have to manage that in a way that is that, you know, we're dealing with incredibly dangerous factors here, incredibly dangerous dynamics, incredibly dangerous actors. And if we're not up to speed, we're not going to be able to sort out the way moving forward. Yeah. We're very far behind, wallahi, and I'm sorry to say it, but we're very far behind in our understanding. And we must get up to speed and put these kinds of really ridiculous, absurd, unserious topics and discussions and paradigms behind us, because this has no place among any refined and sophisticated and serious and intelligent people who want to have a role in trying to shape the future for not just for the ummah, but for the whole world, because the way that the whole world is going to go is going to depend upon how this transition is managed.
Build a website you love with Wix. For your words,
see, if you really want to understand Geo Economics and international hegemony, power struggles and power plays, you really need to get a broad perspective. Stop listening to these talking heads. They either don't know, or they're purposely leading you up the garden path like the lead cow does at the farm.